So what you're feeling right now as a parent is valid. It just has to be understood. But love is first and foremost a decision. And the decision is to do everything you can to get your child to heaven. Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where I'm dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And in this episode, I'm going to respond to a letter that I received from a very good person. Very concerned because their child is gay. What are they to do about it? What are parents, good Catholic parents, supposed to do about it? So I'm going to read the letter and I'm going to try to make some responses to each. I did get the person's permission that I could read the letter. I'm obviously going to blot out all names, so don't worry about that. Their anonymity is always protected. But this situation is just way too common, and I really prayed, how can I best respond? I even started some letters, and I thought to myself, you know what? What I'm going to offer is good news. And so it couldn't be just sent to this concerned parent, but I think that this might bring some good news for all of you as well. So I hope that a show like this is going to help you, whether you're a parent or just a concerned, loving friend, on how to deal with the issue if somebody comes out to you and says he or she is gay and they're going to get married. Will you come to my wedding? These are tough ones. So before we jump into it, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Let us know your thoughts. And please consider supporting us on patreon.com/thefatherleo show so that we can continue to provide a good Catholic, balanced, pastoral, and practical application of our faith, which is what I hope to do. And if you believe that I'm doing this, then please consider supporting us. So let's just jump right into it with this very heartfelt letter, and hopefully my heartfelt, but more importantly, helpful response. So this letter has been in my inbox for a very long time, and I have not had the chance to respond to it fully because it does require some thinking out, and sometimes talking, and this is probably the best way to do it, is going to hear my cadence and my tone rather than just say the misinterpretation of me writing or typing. So I'm just going to read the letter and we'll just get right to it. Dear Father Leo, some initial greetings, and here's the letter now. About this time last year, my oldest child told me that, and I'm just going to say it, that she is gay and always has been. As if it weren't enough, my child has met a woman and they have been legally entered into a civil union. So, first and foremost, I will say this, that the phrase that my child is gay and he or she has always been is a very common trait in people who experience same-sex attraction. Now, again, there's going to be people on both sides of this who are going to say, it's always been the case, or no, it's not. It's just a sign of a broken nurturing. So the debate is between nature versus nurture. Is someone born attracted to someone of the same sex, or is it a behavior that is learned? Well, in my honest experience of this situation and just having met enough people, it's a little bit of both. And for people to say that it's only one or the other discounts the anecdotal or even evidentiary facts of the other. So what I'm saying is that it could be a little bit of both, that someone might have always been attracted to someone of the same sex, or there could have been influences. You see that especially in the transgender movement, where it's the influence of friends or the influence of social media or the influence of gay or transgender parents who seem to have like 100% being able to raise another child, which in fact is incredibly a minutia of a percentage, that someone would be born transgender. Does transgender and gender dysphoria exist? Of course. And it begins because here's the reality. Our nature Our human nature is broken, and our nurturing world, the world that influences us, is broken. So guess what? We are at a disadvantage. There's going to be a brokenness in us, and the world in which we live is broken. That is why when I hear things like this, I don't doubt it. So the first thing I'm going to say is please don't just doubt or dismiss what your child is experiencing or feeling. But we have to always also know that what we feel and what we believe can be two different things, which is why this letter is so beautiful. And the parent who wrote this is just a lovely, this is a very lovely person. Let me continue. She called it marriage, but I told her marriage is between a man and a woman, so she does not have a marriage. So good for this parent. Good for this parent, because the parent actually described that there is a difference between the marriage sacrament as God ordained and what this person's daughter entered into, which is a civil union. And I think it's helpful, it's not hateful to say that one is not the other. They have similarities. They do have similarities. And I remember being a young priest, I was actually, before people knew me as the cooking priest, there were actually articles that called me the sex priest. And disgusting title, but it was because I talked about gay marriage and sexual identity, because when I was a young priest, this issue was just coming to surface. And so I would have, these conversations in universities. Now, this is before the internet really exploded, so I didn't even think to record these conversations, so I'm doing it now. But what this mom or father is trying to communicate to the child is belief. What do you believe marriage to be? And it's incredibly important to know that even heterosexual couples don't fully understand marriage as well. And so this requires us as a church and as parents, as family, to make sure that we understand the distinctions between the sacrament of marriage versus a civil union. So good for this parent to be able to make that distinction. But does the parent know what the distinctions are? Well, the distinctions are this. Marriage in the sacrament in the Catholic Church is the union of three people. Three people. Man, woman, and God, who is love. And it is until death does one part, and it is the mutual exchange of the other into the other. Man empties himself into woman, woman empties herself into man, and that's what makes them one. But from the outside, it looks like companionship. It looks like financial sharing of their income. It looks like friendship. It looks like not being alone. And so that's what, sadly, a lot of gay people want. They want companionship. They want friendship. They want to have some fun. They want some, they don't get married for financial stability, but they want some sort of stabilizing force in their life. And so we have to approach the differences respectfully. The letter continues. Through the grace of God, no one in the family was invited to the ceremony, and we were wondering if this quick ceremony is due to a rushed situation. I'm just going to leave it at that, just again to protect anonymity, excuse me. And I do believe this. It is by the grace of God that the other members of the family were not invited to the ceremony, because this family is also a very Catholic family, a very incredibly beautiful family, incredibly wonderful, wonderful family. And I do think that it was by God's grace, but let's just admit that there's going to be times when these people are going to invite you to the ceremony. What do you do? And I am not going to provide an answer for this, because that's another topic, because that's not the reason for this letter. the reason for this letter is something else. And so maybe I will handle that discussion. What should you do if somebody in your family who is gay invites you to their wedding? That's another topic. I want to separate that. Okay. That'll be another episode, I promise. Needless to say, I'm devastated and feel as if I failed miserably as a Catholic parent. My spouse comes from a somewhat liberal family background and does not see why I am so upset. I've told my child everything we possibly could about what's wrong, and have even sent articles and videos from Jason Everett, Father Mike Schmitz, and even you, me. But I have been respectfully told to stop sending this communication. Unfortunately, she likes to quote Father James Martin and Sister Janine Gramick and even Pope Francis at times. They are looking for a priest to bless their union, but haven't found anyone yet, or so she says. That being said, my child still possesses a great faith, and they together attend Mass and, attend Mass together, but what she's gotten herself into is so wrong and contrary to the Catholic Church. Okay, so this paragraph, first of all, explains that there are perhaps different opinions on this matter. But I can tell you that Jason Everett, Father Mike Schmitz, and yes, even myself, would suggest that you should always continue to preach the love of Jesus Christ to your daughter. And if necessary, use words. And while it seems that Father James Martin and Sister Janine Gramick and the late Pope Francis, may his soul rest in peace, may be advocating for, say, gay marriage blessings, which again, we did an episode on that recently. It wasn't a blessing of the union. It was just simply a blessing for the people in the union, which is a technical difference. And to some people, it'll look like the blessing of the gay marriage. But as Pope Francis even said, that's impossible. No priest can do that. But we can just bless the people in it. And so I can at least offer this, that I would bless her, and I would bless the gay partner, not together. I would bless them separately, and I would bless them in a way that would just help them, and here's key, help them to find true love. You see, the letter goes on, it says, I'm trying to love my child, but is in no way, shape, or form supporting the lifestyle. And that is a great distinction, and you're doing a good job. But it's very difficult, and so I understand the challenge, because again, the distinction is fine. Are you blessing the person or are you blessing their sin? No, you can never bless their sin, but you can bless that person and try to love and honor that person as a child of God. And it is very possible to care for people but not condone their behavior. But in the act of non-condoning, uncondoning, I can't know what the word is, in the act of not condoning the lifestyle, does that change the way you treat that person? Do you dismiss them? Are you harboring anger in your heart? Do you sometimes feel hatred for that situation, and it comes out in harsh words and impatience? You see, it's very challenging because their situation seems to define the person. And that's why we have to make those distinctions in our own mind. So, for example, say someone is in an accident or born with a certain condition. You hate that condition, but you can still love that person. And why? Because of a pity. And this might be a helpful emotion. This could be a very helpful emotional way to love your daughter. To love your daughter with pity, not like a patronizing. Your daughter does not need patronizing. Very different thing. But to know that she will never experience the full love of God if she continues to live a lifestyle as such with seemingly thinking that there is no consequence. It almost evokes a pity, but not patronizing. And therefore, you don't want to treat her any differently, but the motivation of loving her is a type of, I'm sorry that you will never know that feeling. In the same way, people can love me as a priest who is a celibate priest. I don't have a wife. They sometimes love me and respect me because of this decision. That's actually born out of a little bit of pity, because they're like, you're never going to know the life of, the beauty of marriage. And so they're kind of nicer to me in a way, They're more patient and understanding. They're more compassionate. But guess what? I pity married couples. They will never know the beauty of being one with God and not having to practically deal with somebody else in my home or in my bathroom. So I love them. Some of it is born out of a pity. So I'm going to replace the word, however, with compassion. Because you can be sympathetic or empathetic. Either way, however way you want to approach it, that pity can help you to develop a compassion. So love your daughter compassionately. All right, let's continue with this. It's so difficult because my child's partner is very good, sweet, and kind, and even gives me religious gifts because apparently they go to church together. This gay partner would be a wonderful Catholic best friend. They would be a wonderful Catholic best friend, just not whatever the partner is to this child now. I don't know what to call this person. Do you call them spouse? Do you call them partner? So this is where I can get practical. Just call that person by name. Just call the person by name. And then you can always say, this is my child's partner. And just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. Don't call that person spouse necessarily. Just say partner. Because in a way, it's not incorrect. And again, if this is coming out of compassion, guess what? The compassion has to go both ways. You can actually ask your child to be forgiving and patient with you as you try to wrestle through your emotions. Anyway, the letter continues. Please, 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 if you have any advice or spiritual guidance, would you please share this with me? I have not found a priest here that I am comfortable sharing this with. And she says very nice things and respects me, and just offers appreciation for me. And then it says, oh, what if they try to invite me to a post-wedding party? What do I do? Okay, so first of all, again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm trying to give a perspective of all of this. What's really beautiful is that this parent, mom or dad, is just simply asking advice on loving this child. And I can tell you this because love is never limited to a feeling. So what you're feeling right now as a parent is valid. It just has to be understood. But love is first and foremost a decision. And the decision is to do everything you can to get your child to heaven. Sometimes that means forgiving. Sometimes means offering something sweet when you should be trying to offer something bitter, like the bitter herbs of truth. Like, what does it take to get your child to heaven? Well, I'll tell you what it is. Loving your child the way Jesus loved us. Be willing to sacrifice. So make some penances on behalf of your child. Truly. But don't let your child know. Do it as out of a secret love for them, a compassionate love, which could look like human pity, but it's theologically known as compassion. How did Jesus love us? He sacrificed for us. He was also patient with us. He was not afraid to eat with people who were completely shunned by the religious community. So don't ever close your door to eating with them. And you know what? Jesus also challenged people to make sure that they were at least respectful. You can challenge your child. If your child is coming across and being disrespectful, being kind of vulgar, being flagrant, being immodest, you can challenge that behavior and say, that's not the kind of person that I raised. I don't care if you're heterosexual or homosexual. You can't walk around exposing yourselves or talking about vulgar and crude things this way. That's not acceptable. But you can still love that person. And guess what? If there's at least a mutual human respect for each other, it's a good basis to develop friendship. And that's why you can love your child through an agapic love, which is self-sacrificing. You can take joy in them like the way we take joy in pizza, you know. You can have kind of an affection for them that we have with friends. Treat the other person as a friend. Because you can even say, she's a family friend. She's a part of our family. And that will be honest. And then you can even love somebody, say, like in an erotic way. But that's supposed to be limited to marriage. But we know that people have these relationships outside of marriage. And therefore, we have to make distinctions in how we live our life. How we treat one another in our lives. But maybe one of the best things you can do is encourage your child to love their partner, this person that they might have entered into a civil union with the love of Jesus Christ. Encourage your child who is gay to love the other person with the love of Jesus Christ, and do everything you can to help bring that person to heaven. That's probably the best advice that I can give. To understand what we're feeling, to be very honest and truthful, but to love and to make sure we understand the kind of love that we're supposed to give to each other is to love one another the way He loved us. And He loved us enough that He wanted to die for us and sacrifice for us just to get you to heaven. So encourage your child who might be gay to receive that love of Jesus and to love one another the way He loved us. There's so much more to this conversation, and perhaps if you have questions, you can let me know. The question they asked is, what if they invite you to a post-wedding party? Ask yourself, what would it cost you in that relationship? Would your presence be a make it or break it situation? If that is the case, that this person would leave you and leave the family if you didn't come to this party, then you have to tell that person, I will be there physically for you, but emotionally I can't celebrate this with you. Or you can say, I want to show up as a mom who cares for you, and I'm only doing this because this is kind of what you need from me to show the depths of sacrifice that I will go through in order to love you. And then guess what, Mom and Dad? Pick up your cross and go to that celebration. because you're not necessarily celebrating the sin. You might be just celebrating the fact that, hey, two people found each other and care about each other. And leave it at that and say, it's at least a good place to start an ongoing relationship with God. Because I can tell you this, having met many couples who are gay who have come to me and have just tried to discuss these issues with me, I've helped them to love each other no longer in an eros way, the erotic sexual way, but in an agapic way. They kind of live as brother and brother and sister. They just become lifelong companions because they didn't want to be alone. You can see how when we look at it that way, it becomes pity. Theologically, it becomes compassion. It doesn't become permissiveness, not at all. But it also doesn't turn you into a robot that says, this is a black and white situation. You do this or go to hell, and I can have no more life in you. Because that's not what the prodigal father did. Remember the prodigal son? He left. What did the prodigal father did? By the way, the word prodigal means wasteful. The older brother, who was good, thought that the father was being wasteful in being generous and loving to the son. Might that be a good scripture passage on which to meditate so that hopefully my words can be purified by the love of Christ working in your life? This is what I want to at least offer to you. It's not a perfect answer, but it hopefully gives you something to think about. Please continue to ask the questions because the conversations will eventually lead to a conversion. And maybe that's a good thing too, is just to keep the conversation going between you and your same-sex attracted child. And don't cut that off. Just keep the conversation going, because at least it says that while we might not agree, we love each other, that we're still willing to talk with each other. And eventually the Theologos, the Word of God, will find its way into our conversation and help us turn towards loving God first, and then loving one another the way He loved us. Thank you for listening. I hope that this was helpful. Please let me know your thoughts and your comments. Like, subscribe, and share. Help us to get a good conversation about a very difficult topic out there in a loving way. And also, if you appreciated this, if you want to support us, go to patreon.com/The Father Leo Show. You can join at any level, and it just gives you access to other great content as well as some special perks. In the meantime, trust that I do pray for all families, because whether your child is gay or straight, no family is perfect. But we certainly gotta love each other and live in a manner that helps to get that person to heaven. God bless you, and stay hungry for God.